Welcome everybody back to the Yosan University 39 Gen podcast. Now, I've got a really interesting guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I am Albert Vaca. I am a Yosan graduate. I got my license about 17 years ago. I'm currently working at the Tao of Wellness. I'm working with Dr. Tao and Dr. Mao and the associates there. There are two offices, Santa Monica and Pasadena, and I'm the principal acupuncturist in the Pasadena office. So I've been doing that. I've been there for about 10 years now.
That's really awesome. Now, go down the usual path that I always ask about. Like, what got you into acupuncture? How did you find this career? How did you find this path?
There was one day at work when I said, I'm bored. I got to find something else to do in my life. I wish there was something that I could incorporate where I could use my critical thinking skills, where I could use my hands, where I could use my energetics. I loved doing Tai Chi in those days. Literally, like, I'd have an hour lunch. I was a block from the beach in Santa Monica. I would walk down and I would do like standing posture or just breathing exercises or some Tai Chi. And I would eat my lunch and come back. And I'd feel like, okay, cool, refresh, let's go. And so that's what made me ask that question, like, what else is there? What else, can I do in order to kind of go forward with my life? And literally, like, that week, I came across a brochure in my break room at my work. There was a brochure there for an acupuncture clinic. So I went and looked at it. I said, oh yeah, my Tai Chi teacher in college used to always talk about meridians and how we're opening up meridians and where the breathing has this interplay with everything. And so I was like, I'm gonna go check this place out. I went and checked it out. I was talking to a woman there, and she turned out to be the admissions director. And she told me that it was actually a school, and there's a clinic also, and you can show me that. And the next thing I know, she just told me about the program, and she's like, well, school starts in 2 weeks. You're welcome to take a couple classes. It sounds like it's right up your alley. And if you don't like it, just stop coming. I'm like, okay. I was like, and that was literally it. Like, I checked out a couple schools like super quick just to look at their websites, and I was like, I'm going here. And that was it. Literally, I started school 2 weeks later. And I was in class. Awesome. What am I getting myself into?
It's so spontaneous, but it's like, that's one of those best things. Is I was talking to someone yesterday about, because part of what we study in Chinese medicine is studying the way of the Tao, right. This fluidity. You can't study Chinese medicine without understanding some of Chinese philosophy and specifically Taoism and the idea of Qi and flow and all that. And there's this great understanding of movement, and sometimes movement without movement, and that the right things just kind of happen. I've had so many times where I remember with meeting my wife, I was sitting at home and I was just sitting there and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I just had this urge to get up and go. And I was like, well, I don't know where to go. And I started looking at my phone and I was like, I feel like I should message this person. I messaged this guy and he's like, I'm at the recording studio. Come on over. And then I kind of went with the flow and I went there. And the guy went out in the hallway and got onto a phone call and said, I'm going to go sit in the hallway and smoke a cigar. It was not a short thing, the person smoking an entire cigar. And I didn't want to sit in a hallway with him while he smoked his cigar. So I was at a music studio and I heard this amazing music. So I just followed that. I went into this room and my wife was in there recording music. And then I just sat there and smiled strangely. It must have been really awkward for her. I know her so well that there's a stranger just sitting there listening to her record. But, didn't work up the courage to talk to her. But then she left the studio. I was like, bye-bye. 2 days later, a different friend posted, I'm here at this place and I'm with this person. And I was like, hey, that's that same person. Nice. And I just, was like, in life brought us together.
That's wild.
And it was like, sometimes there is this, not sometimes, there's always this undercurrent of flow in Taoism. And it's, in the Tao Te Ching, they call it the way of the Tao,
sure.
And it is, coming from a background in Tai Chi, you are working on being at one with that flow, but it sounds like you were right in the flow at that moment. You're at the beach, coming back to your break room Sounds like you really were tapping into some Taoist wisdom right
I
there.
think when you ask the right questions, the answers will present themselves. And that just happened to
I
be
love
a
that.
very very blatant answer right there in front of me.
Yeah.
But I think there were seeds planted along the way. I mean, like when I was about 16 or 17 years old, I went to Kazakhstan and to Russia with the
Wow.
USA wrestling team. I was picked to go out there in this weight class. And the next thing you know, I got dropped on my shoulder. And I was like, it was like 2 or 3 days into the trip. I was like, oh no, there goes my whole 2 week trip of training with me and traveling and all this stuff. And they actually performed acupuncture on me like a couple days later. A guy, heavy handed, big Russian mitts. I don't know how thin these acupuncture needles were, but they hurt. But what it came down to is I got better. Like that next day, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can move again. I could actually grab somebody again, and I could roll again, and that saved my trip. And that was just one seed planted, And of course, the other seed planted was the Tai Chi in college. We had
Yeah.
a beautiful Tai Chi instructor, Dr. Katie Ha, and we would go into the Tai Chi room, a small gymnasium, and we would literally breathe with each other. And she teaches us how to breathe, she teaches us how to move. She wasn't at all interested in the way of the form as she was more
Yeah.
about the way of the breath. And so we would stand there, sometimes blindfolded, sometimes there would be music going on, sometimes there would be shakers, sometimes there would be complete silence. But she taught us how to breathe and connect with our own selves. And that was my foundation. And so,
That's
a couple
awesome.
years out of school, that's when I asked the question, and that's when it started happening for me. So pretty wild just to see those seeds planted looking back on things.
There was this, I can't remember where it's from, but there was this great quote that I used to remember reading from studying philosophy back in the day. And it was said this, that when the student is ready, the teacher will come.
Okay.
And, if you are really looking for that path, whatever that might be, it will open up for you. Then that might be seeking a financial professional. That
Sure.
might be, finding a therapist. But
Finding your
like, if
wife.
you really are, yeah,
Yeah.
right. For me, I
Right.
was, creating a family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like in that moment, if you are doing the inner work, whatever that might be, the doors will open.
Yeah. Pretty magical. It can be. Definitely.
Well, when you got to school and you started going through these studies, what was it that really inspired you? What were the things that were really interesting to you in your studies?
The herbs were something that I was very interested in. I was very interested in, although I was having a hard time grasping.
Mm.
Because I think when I went in there, it was mid-semester. It was like second trimester instead of first trimester. So you don't get the foundations. So I had to catch up when I first got there. So when I in there, we're talking about dampness and toxicity and all these other things, waste syndromes, and to me, I was like, what are they talking about? But once I got the concepts down and the simplicity and the naturalness of our medicine, that's what was cool. Because I remember, the interior, exterior, the yin and yang. Which organ is it? Is it hot or is it cold? Like, those were the basics that have allowed me to kind of go forward whenever I felt there was a block. Whether it was a
Yeah.
diagnosis with somebody or just in myself, like, what is this that's stopping me right now? How can I get more in with naturalness and move forward? And so I thought that was really interesting about everything. The one thing about interested me about Yosan, and the reason why I picked it so quickly, is because they had a Qi development program. And when everybody else, when all the other schools were asking for like 1 unit of Qi classes, Yosan was like, no, you got to do about 9 Qi classes. And
Yep.
I'm like, great, let's do that. And the main reason for me to just totally dive into that, of course, was my background. But I always knew that the needles were an extension of the person. So the more I
Yes.
cultivate inside, the more I can do that. And in my own practice now, since I've been practicing for a while, I got really involved in more medical Qigong or Infinite Qi. And so I was able to, now I can kind of read things a little more with my hands. Now I can, put my hand on somebody and go, I feel a blockage here. That's what's happening now with this. So That's what I love now about it. Is it's those little foundations of that. So.
Well, it's powerful because I was touching on this with in my last interview with Dr. Judith Orloff.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking to me about empathy and empaths, and it was one of the interesting things is that when we were talking, I pointed out that Yosan's Qi development curriculum is such an awesome thing because at the first point, you have to start working on yourself. You have to start paying attention to your own energy. You have to start paying attention to this, because if you're going out to try to work with people and you don't have your own, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be in perfect health, but starting to work and cultivate your own energy so that when you go to work with people, you have something to pull from, you have something to give from, a place of wholeness for yourself that you can then see your patients.
Yeah. To me, it's not about just like, oh, I can have a chit chat with somebody, but it's actually connecting with the other person and finding that space so you can be a space for them to let their own emotions out too. It's not a therapy session every May, but it's a connection practice. So then that allows me to see through some different things. That allows them to maybe bring their walls down and maybe express something they weren't exactly working to express. And so I think that's what's nice about this medicine is that you can kind of a little give and take, a little yin and yang. There's the Tai Chi again.
Right. And I think that the one of the things, it's not a therapy session, but at the same time, so few people in modern society set aside or have that time to really connect with someone or to be seen or heard without, a device in front of them or between them. And we go into a place now where our conversations are often interrupted by digital technology, whether it be that we're at dinner with family and, our phones are going off. But, and I'm guilty. I'm beyond guilty of this, and yet it's amazing that, one of the things that is still so powerful is when you go into a session, like I was talking to my wife about these different pulse masters that would sit there for 20, 30 minutes and just feel the pulse,
Amazing.
And I'm just, they're just sitting there. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time that I went into an acupuncturist and I actually felt uncomfortable sitting there for that long with someone, like feeling my pulse. I was like, should I be doing something? Am I supposed to entertain this person? Am I supposed to move or talk? It was like that stillness, that silence was a little disconcerting for me because I hadn't practiced that cultivation of just being here now.
Yeah. And it feels okay. You don't have to fill the space.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just what they want is the space. You got different people coming in, they have busy lives and maybe they got families and work and it's just a rat race. So for me, I want to be able to cultivate a place where they can go, just breathe a little bit. And go, hey, this is your space. Yeah. This is your time right now. Let's talk about this. What else is going on? And those little moments of space, I think, are helpful for a patient.
I remember when I was in the clinic at Yosan, and we had one patient that came in every week, and the supervisor was asking him, like, well, what are you coming in for this week? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just coming in because this is my weekly time to relax. Yeah. This is the space that I come into to feel rejuvenated. And so he's like, just help me feel better. Perfect. And it was beautiful for this realization that sometimes you don't have to have something going wrong to take care of yourself.
That's right.
Sometimes you could just say, this is maintenance. This is me feeling good. This is the me time.
I ran into somebody at Trader, actually the person at the checkout line who was checking me out today at Trader Joe's. And she's like, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm an acupuncturist. I have a place up the road here. And she's like, oh, yeah, my fiance's tried it, but I've never tried it. I'm like, okay, cool. And it was just a quick conversation. But one thing I let her know was like, you don't have to have something wrong with you in order to go to acupuncture. Because we're not of the idea that you're broke, we're going to fix you. You're coming in because you need a shift. And so we're going to help shift things so that your body can heal itself. And she's like, what? It was like totally far-fetched for her to even think of that idea. I'm like, well, I'll just give you space.
100%. The other day I remember I had a lot going on and I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm going to book some massage for us tonight. And she's like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's great. I had a great day. Everything's wonderful, but I want to feel even better,
That's cool.
And it was one of those scenarios where, yeah, like you don't have to have something wrong. You can just want to feel great. And
But
you set that time aside for yourself.
you get a great husband for
Now,
that one for sure.
right? She was, that was a win.
That's a win.
That was a win that day. Um, Coming back to you, and as you left Yosan and went out into your professional career,
Yeah.
what were some of the things that you started seeing in the clinic? What were some of the things that you started focusing on?
After I graduated, I was doing a program over at Cedar Sinai, and it was all about
Okay.
orthopedics. So literally every month we'd pick an area of the body. It was like, let's talk about the head. All the things that can go wrong with the head, all the imaging, here's some treatment patterns, here's who to refer to. And we would be able to go down the body, all the way down to the toes and ankles and everything else. And then we talk about all these different modalities. And that's how I learned more musculoskeletal aspects of acupuncture and how to treat, how to diagnose from another angle. And along the way, there were modalities also of acupuncture and advanced Sui Na techniques. So we got to see what we can do with a person and have a much better understanding. So with that, I went out and like, I know how to deal with shoulder pain. I know how to deal with backs. I know how to, when to request an MRI. I know what to look for radiculopathy, whatever. I just felt like super confident. So that's what I went out with. And
Nice.
it felt great to, have somebody come in and go. I mean, I had one guy come in to me. He was literally like this. He was turning sideways and all twisted up. And when he came in, I was like, you have back pain. Can you get to the other side? And he literally went around like this, around his spine to the other side. And he just had a blown out disc and, severe pain all on down his legs. And I felt good and I felt confident taking care of him. But at the same time, I knew it was going to take a while. And that was the thing that I needed to learn when I first got out, is that things aren't taken care of overnight. So It's not just going to be 1 or 2 treatments for this guy. It's going to take him months to get him just to here. And I got to understand what he's good with his outcome as well. Is it going to be okay for him to just be 60%, 20%, pain, things like that. So that's kind of the thing that I came out of the clinic with, getting into those musculoskeletal disorders. But what was fun about getting out there was you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. I remember my first patient, she started talking to me and she said, I've got this neck pain. It's really bad. I have trouble turning my neck. I got a little pain going on my shoulder too. I'm like, okay, cool. I got it. And then I said, what else is going on? And then she told me a couple other things. I said, okay, you got a couple things going on. If I had a magic wand and I could take care of one of your things, what would it be for today? And she's like, actually, I've got this nodule in my neck. It was like phlegmy. I was like, okay, big red flag. I'm like, is this cancer? What's going on? A whole list of other questions. Anyway, to me, it was like, oh no, it's the one thing I don't feel comfortable with. And what's great is that I treated her that day, and I treated her with the basics of what I know, back to the basics, the interior, exterior, hot, cold, phlegm, damp, everything else.
Yep.
And the next time she came in a couple of days later, she's like, it's gone. I'm
There
like,
you go.
Super win. I felt on top of the world, and that just gave me a good win. Just to feel good about myself and feel good about the medicine, knowing that even if I don't know what's going on, I could still go down to the basics and still be in the ballpark and, have good outcomes.
One of the things that I when I try to explain to people who don't understand Chinese medicine, the fundamentals, the basic ideas of it is that it's this complete system of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Like there really is this complete system of knowledge for understanding a variety of conditions. And granted, certainly you get new illnesses that emerge and things like that, but they still will operate as a interior, exterior, hot, cold. It will still fall into a variety of categories. 2,000 years of medical development saw quite a bit of stuff.
Yes.
There was a lot of things that came and went, and the medicine evolved. You started out with the Shanghan Lun time where they were treating cold, and then you go into the Wenbing where they started to look at, heat illnesses. Yeah. And that there is this understanding and a basic system that is really complete, that and You don't have to be a patient. You don't have to understand everything about phlegm. You don't have to understand everything about heat. You don't have to understand everything about cold to get benefits from this. But,
Yeah.
it is great to learn. And the cool thing is that there are more people who are open to learning some of these principles.
Absolutely.
And one of the cool things about living in Asia is that there is a certain undercurrent that is just they get, like, at nighttime, my wife is like, yo, no, don't take a shower late because, the wind will get you. You're going to get a cold attack. You'll get sick tomorrow. And, be careful about having the AC on too fast after you come in from being outside sweating because your pores are open.
Yeah.
And these are things that they just kind of
Yeah.
get. It's kind of a part of the culture. And I think that, the cool thing is that in the West, people are starting to look at this and go, hang on, how does that work and fit with science? Well, we don't have to know all of it because there are experts that are doing research on it. And that's the cool part. But it does work. And there are scientific methodologies for it. But yet, while those are being looked at and studied very, very rigorously by different hospitals in China and, at Yosan as well, people are doing great academic work.
Yeah.
It works. It really works. And the system has thousands of years of case studies that show it works.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And what I like is that you can break it down. I like to tell people at the very basic what acupuncture does. It helps move blood circulation, and it helps your organs stay strong so they can perform their function. And if they're functioning normally, your body takes care of itself. So we just got to find out if there's blockages. We got to find out which organ is not so strong, and we got to make sure all your organs are playing nice so that you can get strong. Because that's what it's all about. Your body has the ability to heal itself as long as it's got the right input. So then I think about like the chairs on a table. I mean the legs on a table. So I'm like, okay, I got acupuncture over here. I've got Chinese medicine, herbal medicine over here. I've got nutrition over here, and then I got like exercise and meditation and qigong, things like that over on this side. So when you get that foundation, those 4 legs of a table, that's when a person gets really strong. That's when the person starts healing. And that's when a person actually starts changing their own lifestyle to understand, to start living in that way that we were talking about earlier, like living the way of health.
Yes. There was a friend of my wife's is one of the most amazing dancers I've ever met. And his name is Nyan, and he is a phenomenal dancer. And in a music video I just shot for my wife, he was doing all the dance for her video. And one of the things that I noticed is that he fully inhabits his body. He lives in his body. He understands his body. He knows his body. There was a time that I was doing yoga and I was doing a forward bend and I was like, whoa, hello, big toe. I have not seen this part of my body, And even there was this funny like chart that shows where people wash when they take a shower, and people focus excessively on the head and the armpits and the nether regions, but then, how often do you really get down there and work some soap into your ankles? We just focus on certain regions, and we become obsessed with our hands and our faces. But the reality is we have this full body that part of what I believe that acupuncture is about is, it's like re-anchoring us. You forget about the space between your toes until a needle is dropped into the space between your toes and you're going, wow, that is part of me, right there. Oh, I feel that, drop a needle into stomach 36, whoa, that is a powerful sensation. And now I'm directing my intent there. I'm directing my intention there. And my body is directing its attention there and going, let's focus some love here,
Yeah. What a beautiful moment. I remember I was a clinical supervisor in the clinic for a little while at Yosan. And I remember going in there with one of the practitioners there. And I said, no, this person had a temporal headache, a side headache. And I said, okay, let's try this first, and then we'll continue with our treatment. Let's go into gallbladder 41, a point down by your pinky toe, right across the vein there, across the artery there. And as we put it into his foot, and I said, okay, just keep on manipulating the needle a little bit more and have the person concentrate on their temporal headache on the other side. And the next thing you know, the guy's like wow, I could feel it draining out of my head right now. And for her, it was like her eyes just lit up, and it was just a beautiful aha moment of the power of acupuncture. And not only that, but the meridian structure of what it can do, about a balancing structure that it can do. It was beautiful to see the acupuncture in motion right then and there and just doing its thing. So I love that feeling.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful medicine, and it has powerful effects.
Yeah.
And I think that people forget that power. They forget that there is so much versatility to it,
Yeah.
And I mean, for practitioners, I think that, if we're focusing on, talking to the students right now, is I think that, Dr. Hoffman was talking about an experience that he had with one of his supervisors when he went to China. And it was just this aha moment of, like, when this guy put a needle into someone, and there was just this dramatic transformational effect. And like, even though he practiced, even though he had his degree, even though he had been there for so long, he was just like, wow, there's this dramatic effect. And it's all about that present moment self-healing, and you get to be the facilitator for that experience, which is beautiful and awesome.
But I also remember that it's not me necessarily doing it. We're just tapping in to that person's energy, and if we tap into that and then choose the points well, then that allows them to heal. That's what I love about it. Because otherwise you can get kind of cocky about it, and I don't want to do that necessarily. I'm just like, I'm a conduit. If we can transform your body, your lifestyle, kind of move things a little bit, fantastic. We'll guide you.
Right. You're a catalyst. You're the one that helps facilitate their transformation. I'm sure they could get there, but sometimes you can make things a little easier for them, on the way.
There's a children's book called One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. And I think it's in this book, but in the book it says, we love our Mike. He helps us, he helps us get up the hill, basically. And it's literally a big gorilla on their bike. And when it comes down to the uphills, he's there pushing the bike over the hill, helping to get up the hill. They're still on the bike, but the Mike, big gorilla guy, is pushing them up the hill. And I think about that for any kind of healing modality, is because sometimes you need that Mike to just give you a little push over the hill. Sometimes it's exercise. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's the antibiotics. Sometimes it's the surgery, but sometimes you need to see that little push. Sometimes the person tell you to your face, like, you need to change something. And that could be the push, so whatever it is, just to be open to that too. The body just needs a push sometimes, a little direction, a little push.
I love that. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Dr. Seuss's deep wisdom, man.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes, he is.
There is some deep wisdom there. Now, what are some of the directions that you would like to keep going? If you could keep learning or dive into more, where do you see your knowledge base going, your practice going in the next 10, 15 years?
One thing that I really want to incorporate is more breath work. More energetics, and learning more about fascia. We sort of learn about fascia. We learn about muscle. We learn about, the Sanjiao, the triple burner in our bodies, the thing that kind of keeps everything together, the pantyhose that holds everything inside. But the more and more I keep reading about it, is the body remembers. And so sometimes there's trauma in that body. And so we need to learn how to release it, whether through, I like the idea of breath work and movement, but acupuncture is right there with it, right? So how can we incorporate movement, breath work, and acupuncture to heal as many people as we can, to facilitate that healing of them as much as they can? Because ultimately, I remember going into my Qigong classes, back in college, and just after a couple hours, we'd walk outside, man, the grass was greener. The relationships were better. My mind was soaking up all the knowledge from my other core courses that I was taking. And, stopping bad habits, eating better here. Like, all of that changed. I know it. And that was like in those 2 years that I was doing it. And so I feel like that's a similar thing here. Is like, we just need to facilitate that. So breath work, movement, moving the fascia, and acupuncture has a big part of that. So that's what I want to learn more of. I've been doing a lot more qigong. I actually teach qigong classes, a lot of certifications in the Taoist. What's the word?
Tradition or lineage?
In the Taoist lineage, correct. And so Master Knees, 8 treasures, for instance, or back pain for qigong, things like that. Self-healing qigong. So those are important things that I teach my patients in order for them to feel a little bit more empowered to take care of themselves. So I love teaching that. I love teaching the breath work. Sometimes it's a matter of just standing up, rooting your feet into the ground, and literally bouncing and shaking, just to invigorate everything going on. Sometimes it's just a little bit of this and bringing the energy down, to calm things down a little bit. Sometimes it's moving the liver, putting your hands and envisioning that color green and giving it some love and soothing, and then, sending it down that liver channel. So these are the things that I want to incorporate more of, and then empower the community to find out more about these as well.
One of the things that you poked on that I really love, and I think that this is something that people don't always talk about as much, but with the fascia that you're talking about and the trauma that we hold on, I've had times where I was doing yoga, and then one of the interesting things that happened is I'm deep in the stretch doing some breath work, and then suddenly I remember this event that happened in my childhood, and I'm just like, wow, something was stored right there and just got released. And, it's like, we don't realize that, again, like coming back to that dancer who inhabits all of his body, we kind of throw up these blockages, these chi blockages that we all have. But, when you can release that, when you can work on clearing that for yourself, there are amazing benefits on the other side of it,
I love working with people with back pain. Dr. Mao and I wrote a book a little while ago called Back to Pain-Free Health, The Secrets of Natural Healing for Back Pain. And one of the things I always talk about when somebody comes in talking about back pain is I always look at their hip flexors, and I always look at their psoas muscle. And the psoas muscle, of course, is the muscle that attaches your femur, to your low back. And so if that is tight, then your whole body just constricts. It's like if you're bending your knees to your chest, that gets stuck in that motion. And part of that is the fight or flight. When we think about fight or flight, we crouch down. We're like, where's that tiger? Let me crouch down so nobody sees me. And it's that psoas muscle that contracts. And so a lot of times when we release that psoas muscle, when we open it up either with Tui Na, with body work, or acupuncture, or even stretches and movement, then the person goes, it has that aha feeling or that emotional feeling where it's like, oh my God, I haven't stood up straight for a long time. Oh, I've been so guarded for such a long time. So I love the psoas muscle because it is a quick triggering muscle, and all these different things that attack you, whether it be emails, deadlines, stress about kids and family, the environment and politics, whatever it may be for you, it's like all these little attacks. And so in order to open yourself up, I think that's a great place to start.
I love that. If you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self before you were starting down this career path, what advice would you give yourself?
I would ask as many questions as possible. I had a college professor say, question the authority. And then she's like, I'm the authority. Ask me as many questions as you want. And this was a history class, but I always remember that because, she's the expert. I mean, she's the one teaching me. What do I know? So, and sometimes you think you got it, and then there's so much more to get. And so I'd say, for anybody starting out in acupuncture school right now, like ask as many questions as possible, play scenarios, because nothing is textbook. It came out looking like a wind heat. When you first get started, oh, I got a little sore throat going on. I got a little tightness back here. I got a little congestion. But what else is underlying? What else is causing that? Where else is this happening? And you can play with those scenarios of things. And just to get around a table and go, hey, let's brainstorm this. Let's brainstorm that.
Yep.
That's where I really get into that.
That's awesome. And it's like, I think that, so many students get into school and they're there, but like this is your chance to really have people to soak up information from, because I have classmates that after they graduated and they went out and they're like, I miss school so much because I had someone there I could ask questions to.
Right.
Now when I get a problem, they'll reach out to colleagues, they'll bounce ideas off of other friends, but it's just not like you're sitting there with a person who's practiced this, with an expert who's done this for the past X number of years. It's an amazing place to really reach out and find out more. I mean, one of the things that I think is, it's not going to be able to be changed anytime soon, but the traditional stylings of this, the medicine, a couple hundred years ago, you apprenticed with a master. And granted, we have access to more knowledge across the board now, which is awesome. Yeah. We have more sources, and at that time, whatever the master said, you guys, that was it, and so, but yet now, we don't have that as much. If you're lucky, you can find a great practitioner that you can connect to. But I think that school is the opportunity to really get that information and to really absorb as much as you can.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that a couple different things, you talk about mentorship. One of the things that I said to myself when I was probably almost out, like 2 years going to clinic, I said, what I really want is I want to work with a senior acupuncturist somewhere outside. I didn't have a job at that time. And literally, once again, I put the question out, and Alexa Bradley put up an email one time, and she's like, so-and-so with 25 years of experience is looking for a person to work in her office. I picked up the phone. I called her right up. I'm like, I'm your guy. When do you want me there? And literally I was there the next day. And I started working for this acupuncturist with 25 years of experience. And it was awesome because I got to learn firsthand how she did things.
Yes.
And then now my experience, of course, is working alongside Dr. Tao and Dr. Mao. And especially in those, awesome. Having that 1-year fellowship along with them. So absorbing everything they do, how they do things, formula, the way they create formulas, the way they talk to their clients. We talked about those moments of connecting with the patient. I see that so amazingly with them when they do that. And so now I got the opportunity to have those mentorships, but even with the associates too, like the associates in Santa Monica that I still really connect with, or colleagues that I had just had lunch with for, Mike and I had lunch a few weeks ago, and we hadn't connected in probably a couple of years, but it was just great to connect with that and bounce things off again and just really connect more as more seasoned veterans in this, because that was a great way of looking at that too. We're not so deer in the headlights anymore. There's definitely things that we know how to take care of, but it's all the little soft skills and nuances that we want to get even better at now.